For those new to Tabletop Simulator and interested in getting started on our unofficial Company of Heroes TTS mod, we thought we'd record this introductory video to focus not on the rules of Company of Heroes, but just the TTS mechanics that we use to make the mod work. To get started, first you'll need to go to our Steam Workshop page and hit subscribe. And before getting started in TTS, we do recommend you going through the tutorial just to get used to the important tabletop simulator controls. To get started with your first Company of Heroes game, let's click Create and either choose single player or multiplayer if you're hoping to play with others online. If you've subscribed, you should see Company of Heroes, the board game, in the first column of the workshop row. Let's click on that and click Load. Now to start, you'll be greeted with a huge blank canvas. And for people new to the mod, we recommend starting with a standard map, Tabletop. So you'll want to scroll over to these memory bags. And over here, you'll see that we've got collections of all the standard 1-panel, 2-panel, 3-panel, and 4-panel maps that are included in the mission booklet. As Tabletop is a 2-panel map, let's scroll in and click Place. This will give you the 7 available maps that are in the mission booklet. And we'll want to click Place on Tabletop and then click Lock to lock all of the scenery in place. Now if we zoom back out and move to the center of the board, you should be greeted with what's now probably the familiar map, along with all of the supporting Terrain Pack 1 scenery. Now, to get started with a faction, I'll have you scroll over to one of the colored memory bags for the up to 8 supported players and click Play. This will greet you with the 5 faction bags, and you'll then go and select your faction. If you ever decide against that faction, you can click the recall button, and for this example, we'll choose the US. Now, once you click that placement, you'll see 3 areas of the board that's been populated. First, you'll see all the commander cards that are available both across the core set, but any of the expansions. And then you'll find copies of all of the units that you will be able to deploy under that faction and its various commander cards. Also set up in their appropriate vehicle or infantry tray, and with pip dice to indicate both if they're a heavy vehicle, a light vehicle, with their associated health, and for those light vehicles that already have speed die upgrades, an accompanying speed die. You'll then find your building board, your player board that'll help you track your income and your stockpiles, and any cubes that you might need throughout the game. You'll also be provided with a place to immediately deploy your 9 command points. And to start the game, you'll need to first select 2 infantry units from your first player board. Now, in Company of Heroes, the TTS mod, instead of playing with physical infantry, what we've done is provided templates for all the units you might deploy. To deploy a rifleman, you'll highlight it with your mouse. You'll do Control C, and then if you point your mouse, you Control V someplace in your spawn area to prepare for your first round. Now, this first round, I'll start with both a rifleman and an MG team, so I'll do the same with my MG team. I'm ready now to start my first turn. Let's presume that we have an opponent. If you pull 3 damage die from the damage die bag. Now, what we've settled on in the mod is you highlight dice and use the R key to roll a few times while in the air to then determine who would go first. Let's presume that our opponent won the first round and has decided that we go first. We'll then start moving our infantry in 3 cubes at a time to align with the movement phases. Now, To move my MG team, I'll move him 3 hexes by using our CP to move to the initial manpower. Opponent takes a turn, and we'll do the same thing with our riflemen up to the fuel capture phase, which would end the movement phase. Now, if we move to the capture phase, we've taken 2 points. To collect a point and claim it as your own, if you right-click and change the state to either state 4 or state 2, depending on which team you're playing on, that will capture those 2 capture points. We'll want to indicate that during the capture phase on our income by moving the correct income cube to the appropriate income value. And then during the collect phase, you'll move those cubes appropriately. So if I have an income of 2 manpower, 1 munitions, and 2 fuel, you'll move up to 656. Now, during the purchase phase, if you ever want to, you can click the F key to remind yourself on what's on your second building boards. You can also, across the map, hold the Alt key, and that will snap from across the board the selected car to remind you what your opponent has available to purchase. That's again using the Alt key. So if we want to start immediately by purchasing a anti-infantry upgrade for our riflemen, spend 4 munitions, select the appropriate die from the upgrade dice and damage dice bag, set the appropriate rotational value by right-clicking rotation value, selecting 2, and moving that cube to add it to a slot in its infantry tray. This is now an upgraded rifleman that does 2 anti-infantry as opposed to 1. In the same way that we can set states for our dice, if that unit were to take damage in future combat phase rounds, you could also right-click and indicate it has taken damage by changing the state down to its appropriate health. Now, since we're ending the purchase phase, we'll recall our command points and we'll get ready for the next movement phase. If we were to then go first again, we could use 2 cubes to move into a building. You can use Q and E when a tray is highlighted to change its rotation value. Place the unit and use a 3rd cube to deploy. By moving the infantry unit on top of the building, picking its rotational value, and then right-clicking on the die to select the appropriate rotation value of 5 to indicate that this MG team has been deployed with this firing arc. Again, a lot of the TTS mod is either facilitated by taking copies of units, placing them, or using the right click to indicate the appropriate state of its various upgrade dice, damage dice, or other tools. I hope this acts as a good introduction to the mechanics of TTS that help support the mod. Always let us know if you have any questions in the unofficial Discord TTS channel. Welcome aboard.